All right, everyone, welcome back to Spooky Happy Hour. I'm your host, Bree, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by the urban investigator, Vince Kelien.
Oh, hi.
Hi. How you doing?
Not bad. I'm still not used to these AM podcasts. I'm a night owl, so I'm like, still a little waking
Mm,
up.
Well, thanks for being here with me today and being awake and alert.
Yeah.
But let's get right to it. You're a super busy human being. You have a day job, Ben's company, your
hmm
parent. What are the biggest struggles and also like successes that you face, like managing all of these different responsibilities?
Okay. So, I've worked for a, I've worked for a third party contracting company for companies like Spectrum and Verizon and companies like that for well over a decade. And as a side thing, I worked at Waverly Hills Sanatorium off and on since 2010. I don't currently work there, but I had dropped off and was working Waverly full time during its lawsuit. Not something I really get into, but and then they had their lawsuit. A bunch of people got let go. A bunch of people got fired, and I started kind of putting my experiences at different locations and stuff online. So I was at a location in Louisiana when my old boss, who I used to do the IT stuff for, um, happened to be in New Orleans at the same time, and we met up, and he was like, "Hey, I know how much Waverly meant to you, but people got to have a job, and I know you ain't got one." And at the time, I think I was living off of, I think me and my family were living off of the stipends we were getting from the government
Mm-hmm.
for COVID. And I was like, "No, absolutely." Like, you know, we were trying to figure out what we are going to do and everything else. So I was like, yeah. So I went back to doing that. And he was like, all I need you to do is just show up whenever I tell you, do what I tell you to do. I'm not going to put you back in the field. And I was like, okay, cool. So uh, every morning at around 10, 11 o'clock, I wake up. Um, I don't have to make sure that my son's on the bus anymore. He gets up and gets on the bus and everything else. So I don't have to worry about that. Um, and I start off with coming up with some kind of creativity to figure out what to post for our company. Um, and then throughout the day, I come up with different content. If I'm not already going to a location or I'm not finding an abandoned location to go to, then I'll sit down and go over all of the videos and all of the photos and everything else that I've got in my Google Drive and figure out if I can come up with some kind of creativity to post for it, or come up with some kind of story that's somewhere on Google or somewhere on someone's Reddit, um, and come up with a post for later on in the day. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I have to make sure that I'm alert. My son picked up a job at 14 years old, which is crazy.
Wow.
Um, so I have to make sure I'm alert to make sure that I have him there or get him home. And then I'm not medicated. So
You're like, disclaimer.
yeah, so I'm not medicated, and I have like high anxiety and stuff like that. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure I have like ADD or ADHD or something, but so I don't. I should probably go get checked out at some point. Maybe I can get that diagnosis. I get something to calm me down because I'm always high alert, high anxiety all the time. Um,
Do you think
but
that having all these responsibilities kind of like impacts that and like kind of vice versa? Like the more stuff you got going on, the more pressure is on, the more anxiety. Like, do you notice?
So I with the high anxiety, the content, the show that we're filming and all that kind of stuff, the they kind of butt heads really hard. Especially, you have the paranormal world is full of drama, and that's one thing that hurts it a lot.
Mm.
Um, I have some friends that are very, very outspoken online, and I do my best to stay out of things. And a lot of times I'll go to that person indirectly and be like, this post is not it.
Mm.
Take it down. This isn't me telling you what to do, but this is going to cause you nothing but problems. And I'll like stress over other people's shit all the
Mm.
time. Some of the drama that kind of lies around, I take into my own. Not that it's mine, but like I'll go to those friends and be like, dude, you can't post things like that. You can't
So
let
it's more for you, it's like boundaries almost, it's like hard to have like that boundary of like, oh man, like, do I just like kind of like let them live and learn, or do I stress about like
oh,
how I could help them?
I won't let them live and learn. No. Like I
Mhm.
feel an obligation to tell friends specifically, like if I see something that was like, and not to say like I'm daddy chill over here or anything, but like if I see something and I'm like, bro, this is not gonna air well for you. TikTok is the worst. Let's be real about
And
things.
I'm like such a grandma when it comes to TikTok. Like I didn't even get it until like maybe like 6 months ago.
She
Like it
was
was
like
almost like
right
a
when we were dying.
yeah, it was like almost like a badge of honor of like I did not download TikTok until this time, And then whenever it did go down, I actually like just deleted it off my phone because I was like, well, it's banned,
So then
whatever.
you couldn't have
And
it
then
for a while.
yeah, and then it came back and I was just like, wait a minute, like I just got used to this thing. Like, when are you gonna let me download it again?
Yeah. Um, you really deleted it within 12 hours is crazy.
No, like literally was like a ban into effect, and I was like, delete. I need space on my phone, delete. And then I tried to do it like the next day and it wouldn't let me. And I was like, seriously.
They still haven't found a buyer. It could still happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, I feel like a need because if I had had someone really early on with TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, literally everything, um, I wish I had somebody to stop me before I was going to make a post.
Mm.
Um, and some friends, they're like, Vince, fuck off. Like, this is my life. I'll do what I want.
Sure.
And then some of them are like, whoa, you think? You think it's going to be a big deal? I was like, I absolutely think it's going to be a big deal. And to save face for yourself, um, if you have controversial content, it's not going to be received well by some people, but other people are going to love it. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. So, I
Mm.
mean, you're always going to have the loyal few that may turn into a lot, or you're always going to have the craft, the cult, all those four women are going to come after you,
Yeah.
and there's nothing you can do about it. So ignore it and move on. So, I mean, I probably do it to myself more often than none
Mm.
with friends who make certain posts and stuff like that. And the paranormal theory boys, that wasn't a jab at you. I was just saying, friends look out for each other all the time. I remember when the Crescent thing first happened, and Emily was right there, and I was like, stop, don't, no, don't involve yourself. Yeah, you're in pictures, but you're not involved right now. Like, no
It's
one's
really
even.
hard when somebody sometimes comes after, your
I,
experience,
well, when
rather than
someone
just
comes
like,
after your friend, like, because
right.
they're your friends and you experience some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like Emily and you guys you were in pictures, but you weren't being talked about. Your names weren't there. And I
Yup.
was just like, Emily, stop it. No.
Yeah,
I
it's
think at
like,
one point in time, I grabbed her phone and pulled it away. I was like, over here.
Yeah, it's like you wanted to like look out for your friends and be like, hey, don't get involved. And like I think that sometimes we were trying to look out for our friends, being like,
Yeah,
oh man, should we get involved? It's not that very like thin line, I'm sure. And because you've been
absolutely.
in the paranormal community for quite some time, I'm sure like your net is so big of people that you probably could like reach out to or help or give that kind of friendly advice to. And I'm kind of wondering, like, with all of the time that you've had in the paranormal community, it's been 15 years since it's like official, like during tours and this and that, and
Yeah.
it's a really long time. So, how would you summarize the journey from 2010 until now, when you have this upcoming show on Beacon TV?
I wouldn't. Well, first of all, I don't think no one. Every people might strive to do a show, right? So like people may strive for it, they may hope for it, they may wish for it, they may do the work for it. I know plenty of people who have actually filmed TV shows and shopped it around to different networks and it never got picked up, but they put their heart and soul into it. Um and it's a wonderful thing. It really is, because if you put your mind, your body and soul, it doesn't matter if Netflix doesn't like it. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
if Amazon doesn't like it. It doesn't matter if somebody will pick it up eventually. It might be years down the road, but somebody is going to pick it up. It could be absolute dog shit that you cleaned up off the floor with a paper towel and handed it to somebody, and somebody's going to be like, "Oh, hey, I kind of like that. That's not bad. I'll give you $50." But somebody is going to pick it up. Um, don't sell yourself short. You should never sell your pilot for $50. It's ridiculous. Um, but it's even if it never happens, or I think from 2010 till now, I've seen an array of people doing the same thing I'm doing for that long. Like, realistically, I've met Zach Bagans. I met Jason Hawes when they first came to Waverly. And Waverly was the big spinoff for a lot of these shows. Like, it wasn't until Waverly that anyone really cared about ghost hunters. It
Mhm.
wasn't until Waverly until anyone really cared about Zach Bagans. I know people say, "Oh, well, it was Bobby Mackey's." No, it wasn't. It was Waverly. Waverly was the first big location that people were in ooh and ah about.
Mhm.
Um, I think they did Trans Allegheny first, but it wasn't until Waverly where people were like, "Hey, we want to see more of this." Um, that's why he visited Waverly more than once. Not a lot of these shows go to another place a couple times, but like Zach and Jason and all them, they did. Um, so whenever I was working there, I took that in pride. I don't own the building, I don't own the property, but Waverly was my baby. It doesn't matter, who says what about whatever. No, I don't own the building. No, I don't own the property, but that was my home. So from then until now, I've seen all these people try. I've seen all these people come in, film content. You know, I've even seen some people get shows from, because of a episode that was filmed at Waverly. I've seen highly successful, decorated people, like Kalani Ghost Hunter, Haunted Nights. Just those, and those guys are friends. Um, I've seen these people come in and out, and I think from when I started, just as a hobbyist or just as someone who, enjoyed the aesthetic, because I didn't believe in ghosts when I first went to Waverly, or when I even thought about doing it. Um, my mind was changed on the very first day. And from that day until now, no, I never thought that, just because of where I worked or whatever the case was, because I never think that far ahead. I never think that I had help, which everyone has help, but I don't contribute Waverly to that factor, because the building didn't put a camera in my hands. The building didn't, it was me that chose to start to do that. So um it's different in different ways, and I think that at some point in time it'll catch up to me, and you know, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm burnt out" or whatever. But um, it's um, it's very different to go to a location and try to pull ghosts, which like that's what we do, but um, you know that better than anybody. You know, we go to locations and try to talk to the dead or what we think is the dead, and try to get answers. And we want answers. You know, we try to go to these locations, talk to these people, and you know, sometimes we're let down. There's just nothing for the night. Um,
Which is like a part of paranormal investigating that I think that everybody knows. Like we all know that we've all experienced it like numerous times. But it's not shown, it's not really discussed because that's not great content. People don't want to come back for those things. And like I kind of wonder how you manage, those times where like maybe expectations like weren't met or it is met in the way that we know to expect it. How does that influence like your content creating moving forward?
so the biggest problem that I've got is that I do not enjoy small locations.
Mm.
I'm very much someone who gets bored very easily. And as we know, you sit in a room for hours and hours and hours, and I get bored. And I get really bored really quick. And I'll hop up out of the area and they're like, Vince, what are you doing? I'm like, nope. And I'll get up and I'll walk away. And I'll probably go away for like an hour, 2 hours, something like that. And without a camera, without a flashlight, you know, as long as my eyes can adjust, I'll do it without a flashlight. Um, and I'll walk whatever building. And 9 times out of 10, I'll get something that way. You know, everyone is cycling their intentions on that area as to where I can free roam a big giant location and 9 times out of 10 see, feel, smell something. Most of the time it's just smelling asbestos or mold, but you know, a lot of the times it will ramp up activity. And I've come to learn that a lot is that whenever I get bored, I know how to fix it. Now it doesn't always happen, but
Sure.
um I remember we were at Hudson River State Hospital. Now this was more of an urbexing trip. I wasn't looking for ghosts. I wasn't, you know, looking for anything. We was out with Drew.
Mhm.
Um Me and the haunted Raven and his mother Sonia were out in Poughkeepsie, New York, checking this location out, and we split up right away. It wasn't one of those things. We also didn't want to get caught by security or cops or anything. So
Sure.
the best way to handle a giant location like this is to split up. So I was walking down one of the hallways that weren't decrepit to the point to where so Hudson has the the female ward or the male ward to the south. Um, there's no floors; it's all caved in.
Ooh.
If you go into the male ward, um, everything's still kind of there, but your foot can fall through. Um, so I'm walking down this hallway and I feel my daughter Skylar when she was really little. Now she's holding my hand like this, and I hate it. I can't stand it because it takes
Aw.
takes away the what was, you know, when
Mhm.
she was super little. But she grabbed my finger like this, and I would wrap my hand around her wrist, and that's how we held hands. I felt a hand do that to me, and I got freaked out at first. I was like, I'm losing my mind. Skylar was actually in the car and I forgot her in the car. Like my mind went there. I was like, I'm a bad parent. I turned around and I was like,
What have I done?
and there's nobody there, and I'm freaking out. But at the same time, I'm kind of calming down the second I realize that Skylar isn't with me, and I'm like, that was the craziest thing, and for it to be the same hand holding. And so whenever I felt the hand go around my finger, I just did what I do with Skylar, and I went like that, and I could feel everything. And
Wow.
it was longer than any kind of interaction that you've ever felt so instead of it being like a split second, it was like 10 seconds of actually feeling the hold. And by the end, towards the end of like the 10-15 seconds, I was in tears because I thought, my anxiety and everything else. And I was like, I left my daughter in the car. I brought my daughter. Why would I bring my daughter on something like this? And then, whenever I dropped my hand over the wrist, I got overwhelmed with like sadness, and I was just like, it's not my daughter, but it's someone who's of age who is probably hurting, or was kept here or died here or something. And
I mean, you're on a roller coaster ride of emotions, right? And like
at the
sometimes
same
it does just
time,
hit you like a ton of freaking bricks, and it's like a big wave, and you have to like let that out like some way, somehow, most of the time.
yeah, but it was overwhelming to a point, and then like a sadness came over really quickly.
Do you still think about like those moments, the ones that like really impact you the most? Like after having all of these encounters over the years, like do you come back into those memories?
um I have dreams about them. I'm not really sure what that means, but I have dreams about them. And I wake up and I remember those dreams, but in my dreams it's like it's happening in real time and I'm feeling everything over again. um and some of the dreams are more real than others, but
Have you always been like a vivid dreamer, or is that just like vivid when you are dreaming about those significant moments?
I think so. There was a time where I was a kid, where excuse me, there was a time where I was a kid and my parents sent me to bed early. They wanted to watch a movie or something, and they were putting on It, like the original Stephen King, Tim Curry, and I had never seen it, and I was excited to see it, but there was like, you're too young. I think it was like 6, maybe 7 years old or
Yeah,
something,
scarred for freaking life.
and and I went to bed, but my room where it's at, you can hear the TV from there. So I was kind of just like listening, and every once in a while I'd get up out of bed and I'd peer around the corner to, watch a little bit what I could in the mirror. And and I had obviously fallen asleep, but when I woke up, they weren't afraid for me to watch It. They were afraid for me to watch Deliverance.
Hmm.
And I woke up and Pennywise sounded way different. They weren't watching It, they were watching Deliverance, but there's a scene in Deliverance where the guy says, not to be graphic, but he says something about, well, you can suck my redneck, blah, 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 blah. And I went into like an instant cold sweat. And I was just like, I didn't think he would talk like that. And, I have those dreams every once in a while where it'll hit me again, and I'll go back to that. So I think 90% of my dreams from the time I was a kid until now have always been about past occurrences that have happened already. I've even had a little bit of deja vu where I've dreamed up of something that happened later on. And
What
I
do you think
think
deja vu is?
deja
Like
vu,
people have a lot of theories about like what it is. If it's
well,
like you're remembering a past moment, if you're seeing into the future, what do you think?
I think that deja vu is just an excuse to use that word, deja vu. It's just uh, it's exactly what you said. My personal opinion is that you experience something in the past, or you're going to experience something in the future, and the word deja vu is just saying is doing something. You get a pit in your stomach, you come to, and you're just like, I've done this already.
Hmm.
What is happening? Or you have a dream and you're like, I've lived this. We've all seen the groundhog episode of Supernatural. I've done
Oh, yeah.
this, a million times already. I don't need to relive it again. I think that I don't think there's any real explanation for deja vu. I think that the Earth rotating on its axis, sometimes things slip, and it's just like, hey, we're going to show you something, that you haven't done yet, that you might be excited for, or you might not be excited for. Or we're going to show you something you've already done. It's probably just, the Earth slipping up and saying, oh, well, hey, or, if you believe in God, I personally am not a big religious person. But maybe God is slipping up and saying, hey, you need to see this once more, or you need to see the consequences of your actions, whether they be good or bad. Maybe it'll make you think about what you do before you do it
It sounds
going
like they're little
forward.
like mindful messages
Yeah.
from the universe or something.
Yeah. That's accurate.
Yeah, I like to I mean, it's a cool way to think about it that you're getting what you need at that time. You might not know why, or you
Yeah.
might not know where it came from, but it's like slow down and pay attention to me.
Yeah.
You recently shared your New Year's goals on Facebook, at the beginning of the year, and you wanted to go to maybe 10 new locations, 10 new states. What are some of those locations or states on your agenda that you're excited for?
I am pushing Beacon for a UK trip. And the
That'd be
UK trip
awesome.
isn't to say I've been to the UK, or to say that I've been to Italy or Greece or, wherever. It's important to me. I think it was back in 2007 they aired the Tudors episodes on HBO.
Mhm.
And I remember reading about King Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth, and his many wives,
Right.
which he was neglectful to all. I think even with Queen Elizabeth, like, she was his favorite, and she still was treated awful. And ever since the show had aired, I watched all of them back to back to back multiple times. And even in school, I didn't really pay attention, because who really paid attention in school? But history was my favorite subject when I was a kid. Um, I think it coincides with the ghost hunting and the urbexing, but I had been mildly obsessed after watching, and they're still, like, Hever Castle in the UK is still up and active. And for a building to be that old, the castle itself to be that old and be maintained, um after so many years, you don't hear about that in the US.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we'll tear them down and build something on top of it or
Yeah,
completely, like,
parking
repurpose it, and
lot.
it won't look like, it was previously.
Yeah.
And with your love of history, it makes sense why you'd be so adamant about going to the UK where they still preserve a lot of that.
It's there's so much. And then, in Germany, they have the Cologne Cathedral. If you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or whatever, you hear Sonne from Rammstein playing in the background. It's the whatever. They turn the
Mhm.
camera, and the cathedral is there, and it's really big and gothic and gorgeous and everything else. And you can have weddings there. You can rent it out for different things.
That's awesome.
Um, and just an absolute, gorgeous building. And there's so many other locations just overseas in general, in Japan and China and Germany, Italy, France, and just so many different things. You have the catacombs in Paris.
The catacombs in Paris were like bucket list for me, and when we backpacked throughout the UK, we did go to the catacombs,
Yeah.
and it was I think about that all the time. Like, we weren't like obviously ghost hunting, they don't allow really anything like that. We just went for, a self-guided tour, and just like being down there, knowing why all of these bodies are buried down there and have, and rearranged all these bones in these different
Right.
ways. Like, it's something to just be a part of it and walk the same path that others. have.
It's it's crazy to think about. You have so many different locations, so many different buildings, so many different tourist attractions like the catacombs and the and the Eiffel Tower and things like that um, that I think mean a lot to history, not just past history but modern history. Um, and to experience it, but to film it at the same time is, you know, a remarkable opportunity. And it's not that I want to take it for granted or that, you know, I want to take someone's money or anything. I think that um I think that viewership is important because there's some people that will never get the chance.
Sure.
There's some people that won't ever get to go to Waverly or to Trans Allegheny or to OSR or Penhurst or, you know, the catacombs, whatever the case, you know, there's so many different people that will never get to experience it. And that's part of why I do what I do, is because I want those people to, you know, those enthusiasts that don't have the means to travel or don't have the money to travel or whatever the case is, for me to share my experience with those people.
Yeah, so was that the same kind of idea or concept of like, let me bring a piece of these locations to you? Was that like the same type of concept that you had when you did the haunted creations, you know, like the like jewelry and like, you know, parts of locations that you've been to? Like, is that what inspired it?
Yeah, in a way. Because if you so with for anyone who's curious, haunted creations is a thing that I do. I put debris, concrete, asbestos, the whole nine, paint chips, everything into wearable urns like you would your family. So I call it haunted creations. It's not haunted, it's just debris. I don't think ghosts really care about the pebbles you pick up off the floor. With permission from said locations. That way you can take a piece of history home with you. If you go on eBay, let me get into this for a second. If you go onto eBay, there's urbexers who are not urbexers. They are in it for money, and they will never not be about it in it for money. There's a spoon online on eBay right now for $250 that came from Norwich.
My gosh.
Dude, what in your right mind makes you think that a metal spoon that's not silver, mind you, is worth $250 simply because of where it came from? So that's kind of part of it too, where it's not something as cool as a spoon, right? You know, it
But it's
has
still
the
something that, like, you put your time, energy, and effort into, like, infused your own energy to do it, and
yeah,
it's not something that you just, like, took out, took a picture of, and then put it online and said, "Okay, give me your money."
yeah, and it's not, you know, and it's not expensive as
Mhm.
to where, you know, something that I put together like this is 15 to $20, excuse me. Where it's only 15 to 20 bucks, you know, versus going to eBay and spending $250 on a spoon. Yes, it's an important part of history, but if you're just in it, it's sat there for 2 years now. No one's buying it.
Mhm.
Which is sad. You know, it's just gonna sit in the hands of someone who doesn't care about it. Um, I've got so many different things from locations that I won't put up for sale. Um, there's postcards that I've bought that is way out of my budget, and it's just a piece of cardboard. And it's a terrible thing to think about, you know, just to take a little bit of preservation. But there's one right here.
But it, like, means something. It's, like, the meaning that, you
Yeah,
know, comes to these objects, not necessarily, like, what they are, but what they mean.
yeah. This coffee creamer is from Waverly. It has the logo on it, has the emblem on it, from the 1930s. Cost me $180,
Wow.
and it shouldn't have. You know, it's an eBay buy, but you
Mhm.
know, I love Waverly so much that I just had to have it. You know, um, but it's just things like that that was part of the whole reason for haunted creations, was because I see myself spending an arm and a leg on things, for something that shouldn't have been so much money, just for someone to say they have a piece of something.
And now do
Um,
you bring haunted creations with you to, like, the conventions? Can our viewers find those, at
Absolutely.
so tell us a little bit about the conventions that you'll be at this year.
So this year at the end of the month is going to be the Paranormal Gathering in Middletown, Ohio at the Windermere. Um, this is myself. Uh, my co-headliner had to drop off, unfortunately, which
Mm.
is it sucks, and it really sucks because she's a close personal friend. But she's got an exciting endeavor, is why she had to drop off. So, um, it's me and there's a psychic medium and a few others. There'll be vendors. Um, we will be at FCI Con, MagCon, ISS Con, the whole nine.
All the Kimmel cons.
All the Kimmel trifecta.
Yeah.
Um, it's there's a lot, but let me just make sure I got everything, because if I don't, I'll drive myself nuts.
You got
Um,
Crescent, the Paracon at Crescent coming up too, that's
I
in May, I
do.
think, right?
So the one at Crescent is a little is a little strange, not gonna lie. And that's not really talking shit or anything. It's just kind of one of those things where I'm just kind of like, do you have more guests? Is it just me? Because if it's me, yikes. Um,
I do think that there's some, I mean, from what I've seen on social media, right? Some popping up here and there. I think they're kind of
um
maybe announcing them as they come, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty good.
hopefully, because if it's just me, I tell promoters this all the time. I have yes, okay, I have following, but that doesn't mean that following promotes tickets.
Sure.
So
Mhm.
but yeah, so we have the Middletown Paracon at the end of the month, and then we have the Cajun Country Paracon in Louisiana.
That
um
sounds fun.
it will be.
Hooting and
I, I
hollering.
I I don't even care. I don't care about the convention. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited for it. Don't care. I want food.
You're
Bring
like,
me
top priority is the Cajun food.
all the spicy pasta. Um
Heck yeah.
and then we have the April 26th, we have the Booze on the Battleship, and that's going to be a big one at the USS North Carolina.
Mhm.
Um and that's with Shane Pittman, Josh Purvis, Sean Austin, and a whole bunch of other people. Penhurst Paracon, which is going to be a lot of fun. Always, Penhurst is always a dream,
Mhm.
even if you've been multiple times. Oh, Paranormal Rockdown, Broadhead Manor. Emily's actually helping me with that one.
Nice.
That's July 18th and 19th in Broadhead, Wisconsin. It'll be a lot of fun. We have the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, which is always a blast. It's always awesome to spend a weekend in Gettysburg.
Yeah, and,
Um,
like, how great is it to just go bebop all over the country, hang out with like-minded people in the paranormal, meet new people, have new connections, like, it just grows and grows and grows the more you do.
I've come to the conclusion that I think that I've come to the kind of conclusion that when I first started this, I was all, we're going to network. I'm going to get all these people's numbers, and, and we're going to do all these collaborations and all this other kind of stuff. And since the announcement of the show or whatever, I'm just kind of like, I just want to make friends. I don't care if you want to do something. If you want to do something, great, awesome, we'll do it. But I don't care necessarily about networking anymore. I more care about people's friendship. Um, there's certain things in this world that I've come to realize is that some people don't want to be your friend.
Mhm.
And if you don't want to be my friend, I don't want to be seen on camera with you.
Yeah, you're looking
Um,
for more, like, genuine connection with
yeah.
other people than any
And
type of media or
I can also understand that that could kill like a business, but at the same time, if it kills my business from just wanting to be friends with people, so be it.
right,
Um,
that's where your value lies right now in
you
it.
know, if sure, okay, Netflix hits me up, yeah, sure, great. I'm on my way. But
Yeah.
like, you know, um, if you want to do a YouTube video, but you are like just in it, for the scares and the money and girls or guys or whatever, then I don't care.
Mhm.
And we won't do anything. But if you want to like have a relationship, I'm here. I'm down for it. If you are just starting out and you meet me at one of these conventions and you want to do something, let me know. I'm always down for collaborations, especially with friends. Um, I learned early on that there are some people out there that um, the second that you turn in your content, um, words are to be said
Mm.
behind your back. Is where all the drama and anxiety and everything else comes in. Um, but that content can be altered, and some people don't have the best mindset.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
how why you have to be so selective, right? To be able because you've been through like the ups and downs, trying it, maybe getting burns, like all
yeah,
the back and forth. So it's like, okay, this is my priority now. And I think that that's really cool that you're at a spot where you're like, I'm going to do this because I don't want the other stuff. Like, I'm going to put my own respect, my own values for what I want to get
here's
out
the
of it.
here's the kicker too, is that I'm not really in that spot.
Mm.
Some people might look at the content or look at my pages or whatever and be like, "Oh, dude's got it easy," and I'm just like, "Not really." I have
No,
a
I mean like
regular,
the spot within yourself, getting to
yeah,
that point where it's like, okay, this is what I value more than this.
right. I've just gotten to a point to where I just don't. If you don't have a moral compass, if you don't, you don't want to have any kind of relationship, you don't want to be a friend, you just did it for money or, views or clicks or whatever, which you have to be. But if you don't have a moral compass behind it, I don't even, I'm not going to waste my time with you.
Mhm. And that's the real and authentic Vince Kelien, y'all, because that's what you're gonna get, right? When they come to you, just real and authentic, and that's what they can expect. And I hope that everyone heads over to check out the content, especially the upcoming Sean Beacon. I know I'm super excited to see what you get into and hopefully make it overseas.
I certainly hope so. Of
Well, thanks so much for being here today. I
course.
really appreciate it. And for all of you listening or watching, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be alerted of future episodes that happen here on Thirsty Thursdays. So until next time, everybody, cheers.